Hello there, this is Kush from creativepadphotography.com and welcome back to the video series. We are on the next part, which is an important one because we'll be looking at advanced selections. So I've divided this whole part of advanced selections into two videos, part 1 and part 2. So in this is part 1, we'll be looking at a kind of selection which will just give you a technique to make selections in a much more refined manner. So if you remember part 2, where we learned about some basic selections, we used the magic wand tool, we used the quick selection tool, we used the lasso tool, the elliptical tool and the rectangular tool. So those are just basic selections. So for example, if you remember the image with the old man where we edited the sky, so we're going to do something similar in this image. What we want in this image is we want to get rid of this sky and we want to replace it with a golden hours, nice looking sky, right? So like in the earlier image, what we did was we just selected, we had this image and we just pressed our mouse button and we had a magic wand tool and it selected the area, or the sky. So in that case, it was still okay because the man who was standing on the left was the only obstruction to that whole plain sky. But here, if you see, you have plenty of obstructions, and one of the major obstructions, if I zoom in here, is these trees and the leaves. So I cannot manually keep on selecting, press shift and then select this area and then select this area. It'll be literally impossible, right, to select the sky like that. So we cannot do that. So we need an advanced selection here. So you need to ask yourself, what is common to the area that we're trying to select here? So what is common here is the color. So the color of the sky is what is common to the whole sky. So it's pretty much different shades of blue. So that's where a very refined advanced selection called as color range selection comes into play. So you can access it right from the select menu. It's in here in color range. But before I do that, I'm just going to not work on the original. I'm just going to duplicate this layer. Right, so once I open this, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly fit this on screen. Okay, this looks better. So we are on the duplicate layer and then I'm going to go to select. It's a very easy tool to use. Just go to color range. And you're not going to see something like this right now. You're going to probably see something like this. Everything will either be too white or too black, something like this. Now, how this tool works is pretty easy. You just, the moment you open this tool, you'll see this dialog box open up. And the second thing that will happen is the cursor will change into this eyedropper. So what Photoshop wants you to select is now according to the color range. So you have to tell Photoshop what colors do you want to select, right? So for example, if I just click on this blue sky here, you'll see this part turns white. So anything that you see white here basically will be selected once I press OK. Right, so that's how the color selection basically works. So there are different shades of blue, so we'll have to keep on adding those shades of blue. How you can do that is either you can just press shift to add to the selection, so this eyedropper will turn into a plus sign, or you can just click this plus eyedropper here and add different shades. So if I add this side also, now we've got more shades of blue, this shade and this shade. So you can see we have more of the sky selected. Now only this part is remaining. So let's say if I press somewhere here, and this should give us our selection of our sky. You can see the sky is completely white, and whatever we did not want, like this boat and other things, are not selected. So they are represented by black, right? Because none of them share the color blue, right? There's also this slider here called fuzziness. What that means is how much tolerance should Photoshop be given, or should Photoshop take to the color range that we've chosen. So if I increase the tolerance, you can see some things here also become white. So I'm adding more shades which are close to light blue, which can be even white, something here, or light colors here. So you can decrease, or if I decrease the tolerance, then it takes in less shades. We're not giving enough room to Photoshop. So you can see this part and this part are kind of off and something in between is selected. So you can just move around this slider just to kind of get to a point where what you want to do is that whatever you want to select, like in this case, the sky should remain white, and whatever you don't want to select, the trees and the boat and the hut, should turn black. That's what you should be aiming for. So this slider just makes things quicker instead of selecting every possible color range out there, right? So I think this looks pretty much fine to me, to my eye. I only see the sky being selected. So once that's the case, you just simply press OK, and you can see that we've got our selection so quickly. So if I zoom in, remember those problem areas near the trees? which we could not have manually selected using any of these tools, have all been selected now precisely. Now, of course, you'll see some things going out here on the edges like a little bit. That always happens. Even to correct a bit of this, we will be in part 2 of advanced selections. The next video we'll be looking at a tool called as Refine Edge tool, which just refines the edges and makes even this almost pretty much, I won't say perfect, but pretty close to it, right? So but right now let's keep things to the basics. Let's only use color range selection. So we've got basically what we've done is we've selected the sky right now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this sky. So before I do that, if I delete, we're just going to see this layer below. So I'm just going to hide this for right now. And if I press delete now, you can see if I press Ctrl plus, after delete, I've just pressed Ctrl plus D to deselect to remove the marching ants. And you can see now all of the sky has gone, and we've been able to delete our sky only because we were able to select it in the first place. Now all I of course need is to find a replacement sky, which I found just a random image on the net, and I'm just going to take this just like we did in the earlier videos, put it on top. It's not of the same size, so I'm just going to press Ctrl T, that's Ctrl plus transform, and make this big. Just going to move slightly here. I think this should be fine. So of course now what we need, this is hiding our image because it's on top. So just need to push this down, this layer. And you can see we've been able to replace our sky with the new sky. So this looks pretty damn good, doesn't it? So yeah, that's how this selection basically works. And one thing I should show you is it's not always good to delete something from a shot. Now that you have already learned about layer masking in the earlier part, if you haven't watched that video, I think it's part 10, make sure that you do watch that video, because I'm going to show you a non-destructive way of doing something similar. Though when you're starting out, it's okay to delete the sky and all, it's okay, but sometimes you may need to recover the earlier sky. In that case, you won't be able to because we've deleted this here, right? So how would you do this in a non-destructive way using the layer mask? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the time. I'm just undoing everything, Control Z. And when you need to multiple, it's just a bonus tip. When you need to undo multiple times, you have to press Control Alt and Z or Z, whatever, however you want to pronounce that. So that'll be Command, Option, and Z in case of your Mac, right? So that's how you can keep on going. Right, so I'm going to go back to the part where we had our sky and our selection, right? So this is what we had selected, but now I'm not going to delete this sky. Let's see how we can do this with the layer mask. So what you do is once you have this selected, I'm just going to press the layer mask icon. Just click the layer mask icon to open the layer below. So what happens now is whenever you have something selected, right? When we had a selection and this, basically the sky was selected, right? So whenever you select something and you press the layer mask icon, what happens is whatever things were not selected, they basically turn black, and whatever was selected turns white. That's what happens when you have a selection and you open the layer mask. It might all sound confusing to you, it just gets okay with practice, but this is what happens, right? So what happens now is, because what we did not select was exactly what we wanted, but a layer mask, if you remember how it works, is anything that is black actually goes away. It becomes hollow, right? So this is not what we want. We actually want the reverse of this. So what you can do is, you'll probably be seeing something like this. What you can do is you can just double click on this layer mask here, and you'll see this properties window pop up. And here, if you just scroll down, you'll see this option called as invert. So if I press on invert, what happens is this layer mask actually inverts itself. So the black becomes white and the white becomes black. So we get the layer mask how we actually wanted it to be, that we wanted the black to be on the sky and the white to be on the foreground and the boat and the trees. So right, so this is how layer mask works. It can be a bit confusing, but don't worry, but this is a much better way of doing things, because now we have our sky anytime we want it back. So I'll just show you what I mean by that. So once you have this layer mask, you will just again have to do the same thing. Open this image, drag it on top. So everything remains the same, nothing changes except for the layer mask and the whole invert thing. Again, I just push this down and we have the same result again, but this time, let's say later on I felt that I needed some part of the earlier blue sky to come back. Let's say maybe for some reason I felt that these clouds here don't look too real next to the horizon. So what I can do in that case is just click on my layer mask, what gets things back is white. So I'll select my paintbrush, make sure my foreground color is set to white. Again, I'll repeat, if you haven't seen the layer masking video, please do see that, otherwise this will be very confusing to you. And then once that's the case, let's say I wanted to recover the original sky from this part, so I can just, with the layer mask selected, I can just start painting here and I can get rid of this just to make it look more realistic, let's say in this case. So you can see, let's say something a bit here. So it just helps you, since you've not deleted that part, you can recover it anytime using a layer mask. It's a non-destructible way of doing things, right? So that's how you use the color range selection. In the next part, we'll get even more refined with a selection technique used through a function called a select and mask and refine edge tool. So I'll see you in that video. Bye for now.